you're a technical leader, you need to understand that the product lifecycle isn't just some academic theory. No, it's a critical strategic framework. It dictates where you invest your money, what your engineering priorities are, and ultimately how you win. So let's break down how you can master it.
Here's a really tough pill to swallow. The best engineered product in the world can still fail, and it fails all the time. So why is that? It's because success isn't just about flawless code or a brilliant design. It's about navigating the market, and that requires a deliberate, phase-aware strategy.
So, how do we actually build that strategy? The answer is right here, in the product lifecycle, or PLC. And let's be clear, this is not just some fuzzy marketing concept. For product and engineering leaders, this is your command and control framework.
At its heart, the PLC gives you a roadmap for a product's entire journey, from the first sketch on a whiteboard all the way to retirement. It tells you exactly where to put your resources, what your engineering team should be heads down focused on, and how to position your product to make the biggest splash at every single stage.
What you're looking at here is that classic PLC curve. This visualizes the product's journey, mapping it from development and introduction right through its growth and maturity and eventually to its decline. And here's the key. Every single point on this curve demands a completely different strategic playbook.
All right, let's dive in. We're going to break down each of the 5 critical phases of the product lifecycle, one by one. Everything starts here, way before your product ever sees the light of day. This is the foundation, that crucial R&D stage where you're basically burning cash to create future value.
During development, your engineering team is completely focused on ideation, prototyping, and just trying to make the concept work. Now, from a business perspective, this is a period of really high R&D investment. These are sunk costs, and there is zero revenue coming in. So the most important thing happening here is the strategic decision. Do we actually have product market fit? Is this a go, or is it a no-go for launch?
And we have liftoff. The product launches. It's out in the wild now, fighting for its first customers and its first dollar of revenue. And believe me, the clock is ticking.
Strategically, we call this the question mark. Why? Because your product is in a high-growth market, which is great, but it has a very low market share. It's a total unknown. It's got potential, for sure, but it needs a huge amount of investment to prove itself. Now engineering's focus completely shifts. You're all about stabilizing features, squashing bugs, and acting on that early user feedback. Meanwhile, on the business side, sales are slow, marketing costs are through the roof, and your profits are probably negative. The massive decision you have to make right here is, do we double down and invest to build market share, or do we cut our losses and get out?
Okay, so let's say your big bet paid off. The product survives the introduction phase and now enters the growth phase. This is where things get exciting. Momentum is building, the market is telling you you got it right, and the product really starts to take off.
Your question mark has just evolved into a star. Your product is now a market leader with high market share in a rapidly growing industry. It's bringing in strong revenue, but, and this is a big but, it still needs a lot of investment to fuel that expansion and fight off all the new competitors that are suddenly showing up. So what's the engineering priority now? One word: scaling. You're adding new features, you're managing different versions, and you're making absolutely sure the infrastructure can handle the massive increase in load. Sales are climbing fast, profits are finally starting to roll in, and your strategic goal is crystal clear. Grab as much market share as you possibly can and solidify your leadership position. But, no rocket ship goes up forever. Eventually, that rapid growth starts to slow down. The market gets saturated, competition becomes fierce, and your product enters the maturity phase. This is where leaders dig in and defend their turf.
Your star has now become a cash cow. It still has a huge market share, but it's in a low-growth, mature market. The beautiful thing about a cash cow, it generates way more cash than it needs to maintain itself, becoming a reliable funding engine for the rest of your business.
So the mission for your engineering team totally flips. Now it's all about cost optimization, streamlining processes, and squeezing out every bit of efficiency. For the business, sales have peaked, profitability is high, but that intense competition is putting a lot of pressure on pricing. So the strategic imperative is twofold: defend your market share and maximize profit. And, most importantly, you use that cash to fund the next generation of question marks.
And then comes the phase that everyone knows is coming, but nobody likes to talk about: decline. All products, eventually, face it, sales start to fall as the market shrinks, or maybe customer needs change, or a new technology just makes your product obsolete.
Strategically, this is the dog quadrant. The product now has a low market share in a low growth market. It's generating very little profit, and it can even become what we call a cash trap, sucking up resources without giving anything back.
Engineering's focus here is cut back to the bone, just minimal maintenance. And now leadership has to make some really tough calls. Do you harvest the product, basically cut all costs and milk it for any remaining profit? Do you divest, sell it off, or just discontinue it? Or do you try something bold, like Kellogg's did with Nutri-Grain? You could pursue an extension strategy to try and relaunch and bring it back to life.
Okay, so why does mastering all of these phases matter so much? Because understanding the life cycle isn't just a reporting tool for looking back. It's a predictive engine that has a direct, powerful impact on the future of your business. When you apply this framework, you get smarter R&D planning because you know exactly when you need to be funding your next question mark. It dictates your manufacturing and cost optimization strategy, and it's the absolute key to strategic portfolio management, making sure you have a healthy balance of cash cows, stars, and question marks. And ultimately, it just reduces your risk across the board by preventing you from over-investing in products that are already in decline.
And look, don't think for a second this is just for software companies or consumer goods. This PLC framework is the absolute bedrock of planning in capital-intensive industries, the kind of industries where a single mistake can cost billions.
I'm talking about automotive, aerospace, advanced manufacturing. These industries rely on incredibly sophisticated product lifecycle management, or PLM, software. Tools like PTC Windchill and Siemens Teamcenter are used to manage every single stage, from design to retirement. We're not just talking about version control here. We're talking about managing global supply chains, complex regulations, and billion-dollar investments that span decades. Even in the agile software world, tools like Jira and GitLab are used to apply these very same principles, which just goes to show how universal this framework really is.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this: shift your focus. Move away from a short-term, launch-focused mentality and start thinking about long-term, strategic lifecycle management, because that is the real difference between a product that just exists and one that truly endures.